Hi, it's John Mercer here, and I want to tell you a little bit about my story, to hopefully inspire and motivate you a little bit, and to let you know where I'm coming from and how I got into the law of attraction and how I came to be so fanatical about learning about all this and studying it. I come from a background of lack and limitation and poverty. Basically, let's call it lower middle class, but I think today it would be considered poverty. At the time, I didn't realize how poor we were. But I don't come from wealth or abundance. I had a lot of limiting beliefs. I came from this background, as I mentioned, of lack and limitation, and I continued to attract that to me for many, many years in my life. And it was only after I began studying the law of attraction and studying the power of the mind and the power of what you say and what you think and how that can change your life that I began to see some success. And I've seen great success in my life financially, in my relationships, in my physical health, in every area. And to just emphasize this, I'll tell you a quick story. A couple of years ago, several years ago now, I lived on a dirt road in a small town in South Georgia in a one-room apartment. I drove a 10-year-old car. I had no credit. I had no health insurance. I had just been squeezed out of my last job, which I had hated anyway. And so I had no income. I had no savings. I had no, savings, retirement funds or anything else. Nothing going for me in my life. I had no relationship, no partner, a strained relationship with my family. And it was a difficult time all around. I also had physical health problems of various types. I had some anxiety problems. I had some joint problems, these type of weird things, and was not doing well, okay? Now, just to give you an idea of how much things changed for me, let's fast forward from this little apartment I had on the dirt road in South Georgia. Let's fast forward to 1 year later. Exactly 1 year after I began seriously using the law of attraction. I lived in a beautiful townhome in St. Augustine, Florida. I had attracted a beautiful relationship with a loving partner who was perfect for me. I had normalized relationships with my family and had a good relationship with all my family members. I had achieved more financial success than I ever had in my life. I went from making no money to making over $185,000 a year, and then it just kept going up from there. I attracted to me just a lot of nice material things, but also a lot of nice spiritual things, love and friendships with people. And I have great friends all over the world now that I'm very close to. So that's how much things have changed for me. I'm the managing director of Universe LLC, the corporation that sells Attract Anything. And I'm the CEO. I'm the guy that runs the company. I work when I want to work. I don't work when I don't want to work. I have a lot of freedom in my life. That's part of the wealth that I have. And I live in a beautiful place, and I just have a great life. Now, I don't say any of this to impress you or to try to boast. I say it because I'm trying to show you that if I can do this, anybody can do this. I am not a genius. I'm not special in some way where only I can figure out these things and use them. Anybody can figure out these things and use them. They're quite simple when you break it down. At the end of the day, it's all about feeling good. And that's not a very difficult concept. It's pretty simple. But I began using this and I began paying close attention to what I focused my attention on. I'll tell you how all this started for me, how I got into the law of attraction. Someone gave me a very small old book called The Science of Getting Rich. And this is an old book by Wallace T. Wattles, and I love this book. I love the message in it. And I read that book, and I was astounded by it when I first read this little book. By the way, this book is 100-something years old. I believe it was written around 1906, I think it was published. So it's a very old book. Wallace Wattles was an obscure businessman and philosophical thinker who lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And I'd never heard of him till I saw this book, didn't know anything about it. I read that book, and it resonated with me. I felt intuitively inside, that is right. This is right. This is the way it works. I could just feel it somehow. And I began to study more and more of these things. I read other books, U.S. Anderson and some of these other metaphysical thinkers, and Neville. and some of the modern metaphysical thinkers and law of attraction thinkers. I read everything I could get my hands on. I went to libraries. I searched online. I took courses. I studied, and got some other people in my life who were also, interested in this, and people who knew about it, who were good teachers and mentors to me. And doing this, I kept filling my mind with all these ideas. And as I talk about in the system, repetition is so important, because as I repeated all these things over and over, and I would read a concept like you should never compete, only create. Wallace Wattles talks about that in The Science of Getting Rich. And then I would read it written a different way in a book by Neville or someone else, or see a video or hear an audio by some other metaphysical thinker. And I would read it in a different way. And I kept putting these ideas in my head from every possible angle. And I had mentors, as I mentioned, in my life that I was attracted towards because they knew about this stuff. And they would teach it in their own way. So as I got all these ideas in my head, the repetition began to make them true. So that the things that I used to believe, now they were way down here. I really didn't believe them anymore, and they got weaker and weaker. And the new things that I constantly repeated and put in my mind became stronger and stronger. And that's really how I achieved so much in my life and continue to achieve so much, is by I continue to get as much good influence as I can. Now, as I said, if I can do this, certainly you can do it. Anybody with enough sense to watch this video can do exactly the same thing. And I hope that you're inspired and motivated to know that you can do it. You can do the same thing. I went from being down and out and completely broke. I didn't even mention at one point, maybe a year and a half before I lived in the one-room apartment, I was actually homeless for a time. And, not a good situation to be in. So I went from a really, really awful situation using these principles and seeing them just bloom in my life, and seeing my life just go up higher and higher to the next level, and attracted more and more great things into every area of my life. I did this, and you can do it too, and you will. Be patient and be persistent and repeat. Get that repetition going. Repeat. Watch these videos, read books, get these ideas into your head as much as you possibly can. Go to seminars, teleseminars, whatever you have to do to keep hearing these ideas. And even if you're hearing the ideas, almost the same ideas, hear them presented in different ways, because they'll enter your mind in a different way, from a different angle. And the more you get the weight of these ideas in there, the more they will collapse the old beliefs you have. And when you have the new beliefs, you will live a new life. You'll attract new things to you. And I'm living proof of that. As I changed my old beliefs, even as in the beginning I struggled, and I just changed them a little bit. But even with that little bit, I saw tremendous changes in what was coming back to me. And from there, I grew on that. I just fed off of it and kept going and kept going. And then I saw more and more changes, and I saw things get better and better. And if I can achieve the level of success I have personally, and in my health, and in my finances, and in my life in general, then everyone can. And I know that you're going to do the same thing. I wish you all the best. Take care of yourself.